Habari yako. Welcome Makadi Sanwanani, and welcome to the second episode of our difficult emotion series. I hope that you enjoyed the last episode. I know this is kind of very deep, and we are talking about these things at the end of 2023, partly because I just thought, you know what? Well, this year has been a difficult year for a lot of people, but it's also been good. However, I'm like, the podcast, like I said, stems from me and my experiences. And so, yeah, 2023 was not quite the easy year. And I did learn a lot about how to deal with difficult emotions. I mean, I think I have a life that has been just a lesson on emotions, how to deal with them from grief to sadness, frustration, and anger and everything. I think everybody has their own way, but maybe we just don't talk about it, particularly on our continent here in Africa. A few years ago, or if not 2 years ago, I asked an uncle of mine who is well versed in African culture. He used to teach, African languages and things. And I asked him, I said, Uncle, how do we teach kids in Africa? Like, how are kids taught to handle their anger? And he went away for a while and he didn't say anything. And then he said, you know what? We don't really teach kids how to handle anger. We teach them how to avoid it or how to suppress it. So today I will be talking about three, and I think last week I did mention that I'll be putting them, in groups, because there's so many emotions we can talk about, but I'm going to group the emotions which I think are very related. So anger, sadness, and jealousy. Maybe you might not have thought about the relationship. So hopefully in this episode, we can unpack that. So in this episode, basically, I'm going to be looking at what are the causes of the three, what are the purposes of the three, because sometimes we think that some of these emotions are useless or they don't help us, but believe me, they do. And the consequences. And when I speak of consequences, I don't only mean negative, I will also look at positive consequences or outcomes of having these three emotions. So, anger. What causes anger? Yes, we're going to be looking at it. Anger is a negative, okay, so it's considered a negative emotion. It shows that someone has done something against you, or you've done something against yourself, or or it can be on behalf of someone else, but it is usually the negative response to an event, words spoken, and this and that. And the second emotion we're going to talk about, the causes of sadness. Now, funny enough, anger usually is a response to sadness, as far as I've seen. A lot of people, so it's because now it's just the heated version. I feel like anger is the heated version of sadness. And then there's jealousy. Now we're going to talk about it. Jealousy obviously mostly comes from the sense and feeling of potential loss, when you feel like something that is yours can be lost in one way or another, whether it's your reputation, your ego, your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, whatever the situation might be. So we're going to look into them each. So anger. What is anger? So anger inspires a powerful and often aggressive response, whether it's the feeling or a behavior. And it allows us to either fight or defend ourselves when we feel attacked. So most of the times when we're feeling angry, we either want to fight, and I don't necessarily mean fighting physically. You can even just want to fight in terms of argument fighting, because you want to stand your ground, you want your point of view to be understood. And so, but most of the time, anger is a responsive sort of emotion. It's not something that can't just wake up angry because when no one has done anything. It might seem to other people that hey, why is this person angry? But for you, you've got probably like whoever's experiencing anger has got a background story to it. And then the second one, sadness. So definition of sadness. And I did take these definitions from psychology sources. So you'll see Psychology Today or American Association of Psychology. The sadness, it alerts a person on how they need to treat on people, right? Like on how we need to treat ourselves. So when we're feeling sad, it means that there's something that hasn't happened and you're like, ding dong, I need to treat myself better. Or and also as to how we want to be treated by others. So when you feel sad, when people disappoint you, when people leave you out of events, you might feel sad because you would wish that they included you. Then jealous, this is from Psychology Today. So jealousy being the last one, known as the green-eyed monster, thanks to William Shakespeare. Jealousy is designed to preserve important relationships. So, in as much as you might think, okay, jealousy is an ugly thing, but a lot of you don't feel jealous of something that you don't care about. That's the truth. You don't like if you saw someone else's girlfriend or boyfriend talking to someone else, you might feel a bit of anger or annoyance, but not jealousy. But if you see someone else talking to your partner, that's when you can feel a jealousy, especially if it looks like they interact better or there's this jealousy is a trigger of insecurity most of the time, but that insecurity is not necessarily negative or inborn. Sometimes even the people that we're with, the way they interact with other people who they're not in that sort of expected relationship makes us doubt them. And it might be them that are the problem. It's not always an issue of our own insecurity. Sometimes, yes, jealousy is justified because you look at someone and you see, but like they are not, you haven't gotten to a point of trust and of course and surety, and I don't think anyone can ever fully trust a person because a person can be so faithful and beautiful and loyal for the longest of times, and then something in them changes and then they change and then you lose them. So jealousy is really a product of not wanting to lose something that or someone that you feel is yours. Okay, so that's it. Now, we're going to talk about the consequences of these three emotions, right? They are, of course, like I said before, positive and negative ones. I'm going to start with the negative ones. So you can have a sense of brokenness. You can feel like when you're angry, you don't feel together. You feel shattered. You see, even the words that are there that speak about, you can use shattered for anger, for sadness, and jealousy, right? And the next possible feeling that you might have is detachment. So the consequences of it, particularly sadness, you might want to detach from other people because most of the time sadness will trigger this self-defense sort of emotion in your heart. So you might want to then just remove yourself from the current reality that you might be facing. Resentment. Now resentment comes from both anger and jealousy. Sadness if it goes deep enough, but anger and jealousy are the ones that really like can breed. If it goes on and on, it can breed resentment, and resentment means that you get to a point of disliking even the little things that this person that you thought you cared about, you get annoyed by their action. And then regret. Anger, probably if you snap at someone that you like and that you love, because remember there are like physical manifestations of these emotions, and especially anger and jealousy. You might snap, you might say the things that you don't want, you might become gnarly or needy. And after a time, regret most of the time comes later. Unfortunately, it doesn't come before. And then sorrow. So sadness and sorrow are together, but all three, anger, jealousy, it means your spirits get dampened. You are not yourself, and so the negative effect is sorrow. And then anxiety, not knowing, being unsure. Anxiety is mostly from jealousy, because now you anytime someone says, oh, I'm going out or I won't be available, in your mind you're overthinking and you're wondering, what are they doing, who are they doing it with, and it can be overwhelming. And unforgiveness, unfortunately, from the three emotions I'm talking about today, people can say, I'm not going to forgive that person because they made me angry, or this person made me sad all my life, or I'm jealous and yeah, you made me jealous, or your activities got me to this, so I cannot forgive. I don't believe there's anything on earth that you cannot forgive. And we might talk about this in another series, but sometimes, if I think, especially if, like me, you are so aware of how short life is, some things, like a lot of things, very few things, if there are women, wives and mothers, who have forgiven men or women who have murdered their children, their sons, their daughters, if people have been able to reconcile some of the most darkest things in history, I think anything can be forgiven. However, these three emotions, anger, sadness, and jealousy, make it seem like some things are unforgivable. And then loneliness, of course, remember I spoke about detachment. So that means that, of course, when you detach, it means you disconnect from people. And so the aloneness breeds into loneliness. And we're going to talk about it, I think, in the next episode, the difference between aloneness and loneliness. So it's not necessarily that when you're alone, you're lonely. No. Loneliness can happen even when you're surrounded by a lot of people. And then lastly, misery. All of this, the combination of all these, is that you'll be miserable. And then there are positive things to come out of some of these emotions. It's just that we might not necessarily feel it at first hand. So, because for me, the first thing that you can learn, and now from feeling these emotions, when you handle them well. Okay, so maybe I skipped that part. We're talking about negative. If you handle these negative emotions badly, you will feel all the things that I said just now before this slide. And then, but if you manage to handle them, it means that you gain patience. It means that you can be patient with people. If people who make you angry, you can be patient with yourself, because you're going to calm yourself down and then have to talk to them. But you cannot practice patience if you've never been angry. You can't tell people that, oh, I'm a patient person, if you've never been in a position to make you angry, or to make you sad, or to make you jealous. Right. And then a feeling of self-control. So sense of control, actually, anger is the biggest one there, because most of it's not everyone who gets angry, who snaps, who kills somebody, who beats someone. It's because you can handle your emotions very well. And then motivation. Sometimes anger can motivate. Actually, anger, sadness, and jealousy. So if you feel jealous, you might then be motivated to improve yourself, to be better, that sort of thing. I know it sounds weird. Boundaries. So you can then be able to express your boundaries. When handled well, you can then let people know that if you do this, if you touch my cup, or you sit on my spot, or whatever, you make me angry, these are the consequences. And so if you're able to communicate these negative, or these very negative emotions, if you can navigate yourself through, then you can express your boundaries. You actually become aware of your boundaries. Whenever we're doing the confidence building, I think we do have a topic actually on boundaries. And one of the things that is incredible every time I teach it is that people almost always talk about 2 or 3 boundaries, and there's 6 of them. There's like 6: emotional, intellectual, physical, material, and the other 2 that you can know if you join the confidence building program. All these boundaries, unfortunately, people get to know them after someone has crossed them. A lot of people think, oh no, I don't really have boundaries. Oh yeah, you do. Everybody does. And then Experiencing these emotions encourages empathy. It means that you get to understand people. Sometimes, like when you've never been angry, or like if you are a honky dory sort of person, you can't understand why do people get so angry? Because nothing has angered you. But if you've gone through any of these emotions, anger, sadness, and jealousy, you're able to say to someone, oh, I truly understand because I've been there, I've done that. So, and I know how to get through it. I know how to deal with it in a responsible manner. And then promotes creativity. I know for sure when I am angry, I can write very, very well. Poetry, short stories, like these sentences form in my head. So for some people, they can paint, they can bake, they can, I don't know, any, there's like anger, emotions, strong emotions actually promote creativity. So don't be too unhappy about being sad or being jealous or even being angry. Sometimes maybe that's where you're supposed to get your music or your next bestseller. And then they also allow authenticity. Being happy is not to say that positive emotions are not authentic. They are. But there's something about being angry, sad, and jealous that is uncomfortable. But if you're able to acknowledge these, very difficult emotions, then you can be your true self. If you can say that, whenever this person is around, I feel uncomfortable, I don't, and I feel jealous of them. And you are true to yourself and maybe true to the people around you, you can then be a truly authentic self. So, I don't know if you would like to share with me how do you deal with these difficult emotions of anger, sadness, and jealousy in your life? And as always, each message that I give to you comes from my heart, and I hope it finds its way to yours. Mwah. Love and light. See you next time.